is Your Life, America's most talked about program.
Well, tonight, three great stars of TV are using Hollywood's famous Brown Derby restaurant to film a TV spot announcement. So we're going to cut in on their camera now and watch one of them get the surprise of his life when our host, Ralph Edwards, walks in on him. Here we are.
I'm telling you. I wish the food would get here.
It'll be here.
Well,
Hello to everybody. This is me, Jerry Lewis. That's my partner, Dean Martin. And this is Uncle Milty Berle, Milton Berle. We're here at the Brown Derby because we want to tell you, ladies. Well, actually, the reason we're here is because I'm hungry.
Yeah,
let's eat
let's
something.
eat
I'll have a little flour. Just some
We're here for a reason.
What do you mean? Oh,
because we're going to do this muscular dystrophy thing from New York about the 29th and the 30th. And the reason telethon. The reason we asked Mr. Milton Berle is because he's the first one that did a telethon, right?
That's right, and he is the man that knows so much about telethons, and we figured he'd be the best man to tell you folks about
Milton, you tell the people all about this one.
I'd be very glad to if you get through talking.
I'm sorry.
Shut up.
Barlinger.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dean and Jerry are really preparing a tremendous show on June 29th at Carnegie Hall for the muscular dystrophy. Will you stop talking, please?
I'm sorry.
This is a 24-hour show for muscular dystrophy on behalf of
this
the
great charity. These kids that are depending upon us to do the best we can.
How are you?
Fine, Ralph. How are you?
Hi, Ralph.
Nah.
Dean Martin, you were expecting me, weren't you?
Why, this is your wife.
No,
You were expecting me.
I don't know about him.
Were you expecting me, Milty?
I wasn't expecting you.
You weren't expecting me?
Now, what is this?
Boy, for 4 years we've been waiting to catch you. Tonight, Milton Berle, this is your life. Jerry Lewis, Dean Martin. Did Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis really fool you getting you down here, pal?
I swear to heavens they got me down here. There is no such telethon.
No. Yeah, there isn't such telethon, but we didn't need you to tell anyone about it.
The type of guy that can't turn down any invitation. Isn't that right, Jerry? He's around all the time. My goodness gracious. Well, we're going to be on our way here. Before we grab the car, though, on our way over to the theater, I want to thank Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. God bless you, boys.
Thank you,
couldn't have
Ralph.
swung it without you. Good luck on the muscular dystrophy telethon on June
29th.
Right on. Okay. And Irving Gray, your, where's Irving? Personal manager here, and thank you very much, executive producer.
I'm sorry.
Irving, thanks for all your help. Now, come along. We're going to be on our way over to the El Cap. Thanks, Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis. Thank you, Al. Come along with us. Here we go.
You
In the
knew
meantime,
about this,
here's our good friend Bob Warren. Here we go, Milton.
Now, here they are, Ralph Edwards and tonight's principal
Boys,
subject,
girls.
Milton Berle.
Here he is. Milton, they always want to know, are you fooled or not? The king of television, sit down, will you please? In our chair of honor, Milton.
Oh.
You know, the payoff on this whole deal is that last night on Milty's program, he did a takeoff on This Is Your Life, never dreaming that tonight he'd be the subject. As a matter of fact, we figured it would work for us. This Is Your Life, Sheena, Queen of the Jungle.
Yeah.
Because if anything came up about This Is Your Life, you would think it had to do with last night's show.
That's right. I'm overtaken.
shut up.
I don't know what to...
Let's begin the story of a human dynamo, the star of vaudeville and nightclubs who made television history as the first great star of television. This is your life. Milton Berle. It's summer, or rather it's springtime, 1908, and before you're even born, your future is foretold. Father's he's in the paint business, Milton.
Yes, right.
What'd your mother do?
My mother was a store detective and a private detective.
When you're of school age, you're known as that fresh kid in your neighborhood, convoyed by three older brothers, Phil, Frank, and Jack Berle. And here's the mob. Today, Frank and Jack Jack are members of your TV production staff, and Phil is a program executive at NBC. Do you remember Milton's first acting, Phil?
I sure do. We saved money with Milton at that time.
How'd you do that?
Well, Milton used to make faces in the mirror, and we had an uncle living with us that it got on his nerves, see, and...
My Uncle Joe, yeah.
Sort of a permanent guest there.
That's right, he was a permanent guest.
How'd you save money, though, that way?
Well, our uncle moved out.
A partnership which was to become a legend in show business was coming along, but
when Milton won a contest imitating Charlie Chaplin, that's when Mom's eyes really lit up. And that was the real beginning of a partnership between Mom and Milton.
Yes, a partnership which was to become, as I say, a legend in show business. How did Mom get you your first paying job in vaudeville, Milton?
Well, I was about 5 years old, and this was back in 1913, and Charlie Chaplin was the big rage at the time. It made pictures like The Rink and all the one-reelers, and there was a Charlie Chaplin contest, I remember, and it was held up in Mount Vernon. I happened to be masquerading in my father's outfit. I took my father's pants and I cut up my mother's fur muff, and I put some mucilage on me, and I took a big a rose. And I planted it in my lapel, and I took my father's derby, and I think I took my Uncle Joe's cane, and I hobbled down the street, and it was Thanksgiving Day, and a lot of people were following me, and this one man saw this little dopey child do this, and he followed me back. He followed me back to where I lived, and he walked in and he said to my mother, Sarah, that was Mama's name before she changed it, and to Sandra, and he said, I'd like this little boy to enter a contest, and the contest was held in Mount Vernon.
Yeah.
And
was this man's name E.W. Wolf?
No, this was not E.W. This is a little later after E.W. Wolf.
I see.
This is before E.W. Wolf. Yeah. This was up in the Bronx.
I see. E.W. Wolf was the man who saw you when you were entertaining the soldiers.
I was entertaining the soldiers at Camp Upton and Camp Dix during the First World War, and this E.W. Wolf saw me. He's from Philadelphia. He was from Philadelphia, and he put me in a kid act called The Melody of Youth. Yeah. And I was in a lot of kid acts for him, Tidbits and Ting-a-Ling. And
Well, Milton wasn't bashful about being a boy actor, was he, Jack?
No, as a matter of fact, he got a lot of people together to spread the news around. When Milton was being confirmed at the temple, that was his bar mitzvah,
yes.
He, after the ceremony was over, Rabbi said, now, if you really want to see your bar mitzvah boy, he's playing 7 blocks away from here at the Alhambra Theater.
Your mom got you parts in the early silent pictures, Perils of Pauline and all that. Thank you, Phil, Frank, and Jack Berle. You'll see Brother Milton a little later. Age 10, you're offered your first job in vaudeville. And now this, how did Mom manage that? Oh, that's when she took you to the Army camp.
Yeah, I played all the Army camps for the boys, and I was known as the Shimmy Kid.
Oh, yeah.
Or Al Jolson's second. And or the second Al Jolson, and I entertained all the camps.
And meanwhile, your baby sister's been born, but Mom takes her right along with you on the road to give you a chance. This is when Mr. Wolf hired you as a partner in this children's act. Right. You went on the road. After long months, your mom hears that the Schuberts are reviving a hit of earlier years on Broadway.
Tell me, pretty maiden, are there any more at home like you?
There are a few, kind sir, but simple girls and proper too.
Those are two of the voices who sang that song with you 36 years ago, Milton, in 1920 when you were 12 years old. You remember the show?
Well, I don't know if they were the kids or
One is a friend you haven't seen in 26 years. This is from Floridora. She was then Miriam Batista from Westport, Connecticut, where she now conducts her Dance Your Way to Glamour School, Mrs. Lloyd Rosamond. And the second of your partners in that sextet of 1920 from New York City, famous radio and TV moderator, newsman, editor, big story, Mr. Ben Grauer, and Miss Rosamond.
Milton, Milton, we're wearing the same costumes we wore then, so you can remember how you looked when we all sang the Florida.
If you think of a sketch now, just look at that picture of us all the way we were together in 1920.
Yeah.
Which one's Milton?
Which one is Milton?
Way over at the end.
Right at the end.
Mugger.
Yeah, I was mugging.
Right.
There's a great story goes with this if you want to hear it.
Can we hold it just for a second?
No, I'd like to tell it.
All right.
I'll hold it.
Go ahead.
But I remember a quickie, Milton, in the dressing room one night, you said, I'm going to be tops in this business. My mama says so.
That's right.
What's the story, Milton?
Well, the story was opening night in this Floridora Sextet. We all did the same dance. It was the Floridora Sextet step. And my mother took me on the side before we went on. She said, look, what foot do all the kids start with when they make their entrance? And I said, we start on our left foot. She said, well, when you walk on tonight, use your right foot. So I said, well, Mama, what do you mean, use my right foot? I'll be out of step. She said, that's the idea. And I was all out of step. They were all out of step but Milton, and so I could get the attention. And do you remember that night?
Straight up.
And that was 1920.
Yes, indeed. And Mrs. Lloyd Rosamond and Ben Grauer, members of the original Floridora Sextet with Milty. We'll see you a little later there. And Mommy of yours was pretty smart, you know, with that out of step. After Floridora, you and Mom land a deal. She lands another deal for you, this time a double act that gives you name billing.
Excuse me, is this the office of David Belasco?
Well, now that should hark back to the opening lines of your act.
Oh, my goodness.
With a voice you first heard
Elizabeth Kennedy.
33 years ago. It's the girl who toured for 4 years with you in the hit act of Kennedy and Berle. Here from Chicago is Elizabeth Kennedy, now Mrs. Al Schneider. And here's Elizabeth. Go up a little. Did you ever feel in those young days that Milton would be the great star he is, Elizabeth?
Oh, I'm sure I did. He was always a great performer and a great showman. I can remember a time when the last scene of our act was a parting scene of a brother and sister, and I would walk off backstage with my arms outstretched. Mm-hmm. And one time I backed off and I stepped on our spotlight, and the spotlight came crashing down and knocked me out cold. And this time the curtain had closed and the audience was applauding, and Burl came running off, and he grabbed a hold of me, picked me up, and took me out and bowed me. And then he bowed himself. Then he bowed himself, and then he got off stage and he said, "Hey, Kennedy, are you hurt?" That's the kind of showman he is.
And they say I've got a memory. How do you like it?
Thank you, Elizabeth Kennedy, Milton's first professional partner, Mrs. Al Schneider of Chicago. Milton, it would take 3 hours to do it all. So we're hitting the high points. We're at 1925 now. You're 17 and too tall to stay in the act with Elizabeth Kennedy. Remember what Mom told you to do about that, Milton? Stoop a little?
Well, I remember that very well. My mother, that's the reason sometimes I look, so round-shouldered on the screen, and not for money weighing me down. But I got too tall to appear with Elizabeth, and I started, she said, well, stoop in your shoulders, because when we get on the train, we can still pass you for half fare.
Now, you and Mom hit the road again, with you in your first single act, and Mom always sitting in the audience. What did your mom always do to make sure that the audience responded to your act, Milton?
Well, the audiences actually never knew that my mother was my mother when she was seated out in the audience.
No. I sat in the low state and laughed and didn't realize it.
And she, when the jokes were dying, and I died on the stage and flopped many times in great towns like Steubenville and Canton and different places. And she used to sit out in the audience and laugh, even when the jokes weren't good. And she had a very infectious laugh, and I used to point to her and say, which joke are you working on? I used to throw all the stock lines. There must be people out there. I hear breathing. And I said, lady, would you change your seat and sit over there or come down front? And no matter how tough some of those audiences used to be, and they were, it was my beloved mother who really milked the laughs for me. And by her laughing, she got the audience to laugh at her, eventually laughing at me.
And these are lonely years for your mom, away from the rest of her family, but she made a small hotel room into a home every night for you and your little sister.
I'll never forget.